Yo! Don't interrupt me while I'm having my tea in the morning. How rude. I didn't know you were even there. It's like having a peeping Tom in your house. What is this? I have to suddenly be extra aware of this stuff. Jack Mulholland is here. I'm Gareth Cliff. This is the Gareth Cliff Show. This is the Real Network. Good morning.
Good morning indeed.
Yeah, how are you, Jack?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Yeah, you know what? Fantastic, actually.
Good.
All things considered.
Good.
And who wants to hear those people who go, well, actually, now that you ask, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have.
That's usually the signal to walk away.
Oh, my God. I think I need to go for a haircut. I don't know if I'm going to get any time today. I've got literally after the show, I shouldn't have even said that word. I hate it when other people say that. I have back-to-back fucking meetings all day.
Booked and busy.
Busy, Lizzie. That's me. And you know what? I like work, right? So it's fun. I'm not hating on that at all. But there's so many things that I haven't had a chance to do this week that I need to do. And I don't know, I suppose I'll get to them next week. You just gotta wait. You just gotta find the time, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna have a chance over the weekend either. So these are not serious problems.
Yeah.
These are good problems to have, actually. Too much to do. Imagine being bored, sitting at home, and you've got options. Be on the street, nyope, sleep. Much worse choices.
Yeah, be on
much worse. All right, so what do we got today? Well, Jack's got a couple of things on his mind that he wants to talk about. We'll get to those. We've got Rich Mulholland popping in a bit later on. He's living in the Isle of Man at the moment. Now, the Isle of Man, not my favorite place. I mean, there's nothing there. But we'll find out from Rich because he's actually been there himself.
Their flag is like the most interesting thing I've seen.
Their flag is three legs joined at the hip.
Yeah, it's one of the strangest things I've ever seen in my life.
It's a heraldic device. Very odd. They
must be very interesting.
At some point, someone must have chopped off 3 legs. 3, by the way, not 2. 3, and then attached them in like a triangular formation at the hip. Very bizarre place. I'm glad you know that. That's awesome. That's the only thing to know about the island.
Genuinely. There's nothing else I know about it. Absolutely
You're not
nothing.
missing anything. We'll also check in this morning in the window seat with the guys from AHA, which is a division of Tovest's huge company. These guys own hotels and lodges and accommodation, and they've got some amazing properties that we'll be talking about this morning too. So if you're looking for one of those midwinter breaks, something like that, then these are the people you need to talk to, and this is your lucky day. So we'll get to that a little later on. Everybody, by everybody, I mean like liberal white women, is very excited about Kamala Harris. No one else. Have you got that piece from some lady who's like, guys, let me read it to you, and then you can always show it afterwards, James, even if it's not ready. But this is so dumb. This is the level of stupid, right? Claire someone or another, she says, I know it's superficial. Of course, she's a white liberal woman. I know it's superficial, but I like that Kamala can dance and that she looks incredible for her age. She looks like the kind of person you'd have a margarita or 2 with. This is why people like that should not have a vote. Again, I'm going to say, like, do you remember when, and maybe you don't, but when Al Gore and George W. Bush were running against each other? And they went around, look at this. I mean, look at that. That's the dumbest thing you've ever seen. That was this morning on Twitter. Now, let me tell you, if that's your opinion, if that's how you make your decision about who you're going to vote for, and it seems to me like that's how she makes her decisions, I think I'd like to have a margarita with that person. Good luck. You are too stupid to vote. You should not be allowed to vote. But I remember with George W. and Al Gore, they asked a bunch of men, would you like to go for a beer with these guys? Now, again, that's just as stupid and doesn't involve any women at all. So you can't call me a misogynist for that example, because they're going to. There's going to be someone who says, oh my God, anything you say that is nasty about women, because women are perfect goddesses, perfect. No, because during that campaign, they asked a bunch of dumb men, who would you rather have a beer with? Now, the correct answer when a pollster or a media person comes up to you and goes, oh, which of these presidential candidates would you rather have a beer with? The answer is none. I don't want to mix with politicians. But if you forced me at gunpoint, I would choose someone who has nothing to do with the presidency, someone who's the most fun socially, but that's not what you're looking for in a president. So you actually need to take the moment that they ask you that question to lecture the media about how dumb they are about their decision-making powers, or turn it on them and say, you shouldn't have a vote either, if that's the kind of question you ask. Because when people do this, and they tried to do it in this country too, they're like, I really like Gayton McKenzie because he seems like a fun guy.
Yeah.
You're like, that's cool. He happens to also be doing the most in his ministry at the moment, which is great. But if your sole decision for whether or not you'll vote for someone is how socially fun they would be, you need your head read. In that same election, they asked women, do you prefer a blue tie or a red tie?
What?
On a guy, yeah. Because Gore was wearing a blue tie and Bush was wearing a red tie. Now, again, we have to do better than this. Honest to God. Frankly, I think on every single trajectory, you'd probably want to spend time with Trump more than Kamala. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd make you laugh. I don't think she could. She just laughs, but she doesn't make you laugh. Someone said to her, what have you done? And she struggled to think about it. What have you actually done in your life? She's never won an election, by the way.
Yeah, she hasn't.
She's never built anything, never made anything. She was useless at the border when she was put in charge of that. She was useless at keeping peace in Eastern Europe when she was put in charge of that, because guess what? We've got a war in Ukraine. So she's done nothing. But, as long as she dances and looks young for her age, I suppose for a lot of girls, that's enough, which is why they shouldn't be allowed to vote. Take the vote away from women. Really, I'm going to start. That's my campaign from now on. Just take it away. They don't deserve the vote.
I think it would be interesting to find out what people base their vote on. I don't think it's that enlightened either. Like, from a South African standpoint, I imagine in KZN, they were like, I vote Lubaba. And that was it. Like, Jacob Zuma is the guy.
I like
Zulu,
him.
And I like him.
People are like, I like him.
That's it.
Well, I have that same problem with anyone who says, I like Trump. I just like him.
Yeah, I have a problem with people who just randomly say I hate Trump. It's like, okay, but why?
Or you like them. I mean, that's not a good enough reason.
Yeah,
like,
on either side. Like,
no.
Facts don't give a damn about your emotions. So how about we focus on that?
Well,
but I mean, we're dealing with people. People are just.
But I don't think everyone. Look, really, I'm not one of those people who thinks everyone should have a vote. I really don't think. I think you should have to earn it. You should have to prove that you deserve a vote. You should do a little quiz beforehand. They should ask you basic stuff, not complicated shit. You're not going to have to solve for X in a complex quadratic equation.
Yeah.
Okay. What I want you to do is be able to name 5 of the 9 provinces. I want you to be able to point to the face of the person who was our first democratically elected president. Just cross that one off. I want you to be able to spell the first 3 words of our national anthem. Wouldn't be too hard, right? But if you can't do those things, like, you really should not be allowed to vote. And maybe they should ask you 1 or 2 basic comprehension questions. Like, what are politicians there for? A, to run the government. B, to give me free things. Or C, to look good on posters. And if you don't answer A, you're out. No vote for you. Because it's just, we've got to abandon this idea that everybody contributes the same. We know they don't, all right? If you are up this morning because you have to go and work and earn a living, you are already better in almost every way, and I know this is going to get me into huge trouble with people, than 20 to 30% of the population who nobody wants to work with. No one wants them working for them. No one wants those people around because they're positively destructive, or they don't have a space in their business for them. But either way, they are superfluous to our need as a country. They are a drain on resources rather than a productive value add, right? So I don't think this idea, and that tweet got me so furious from that dumb idiot in America, got me so furious about how like everybody should be treated the same, including that dumbass who wants to be like voting for Kamala because she dances well. And by the way, how patronizing. If I were Kamala, I'd be like,
I'd be pissed off.
How embarrassing for her, right?
Yes, like actually keep that compliment. I don't need it.
Yeah, I don't want that compliment.
And like, it's always funny to me how these liberals try to mask their racism by pointing out things they think are not racist. Like, I think it's a bit stereotypical to point out the fact that a black person can dance. Like,
oh yeah, big move.
Right?
Gareth, you're going to get in shit for take the votes away from us chicks, says Lisa. Congo Chris says, Lisa, do you think women are unable to answer basic questions about South African history? Because that's who Gareth is saying should have their vote taken away. Carla says, gee, I made exactly this comment about 10 years ago and you accused me of trying to introduce eugenics into our political system. Glad you came around. Well, eugenics is still unacceptable. You don't get rid of people like the Nazis did based on immutable natural characteristics. You don't just wipe them out. All I'm suggesting here is that the vote is just a little bit too free. And also, when you give somebody something for free, they don't appreciate it. Like we were talking all of the first 6 months of this year about how it's so important for young people to vote and they've all got to have a say. And guess what? Crickets. None of them pitched for the polls. You know why? Because the vote is free, so they don't attach any value to it. Unlike previous generations of particularly black South Africans who think the vote is hugely important because they realize how much was sacrificed for it.
Right.
Those people take their vote seriously, right? They may vote ANC in many cases, but they take their vote seriously. If you can't be bothered to actually go to the polls, that's because you don't value the vote. Similarly, if you think that a vote is only for someone who dances well, then I don't think you're taking it seriously.
You're not.
Boom.
You're not. It's just that simple. And you know, the reasoning behind why young people in this country didn't go to the polls should be studied. We need to figure out what's going on there. Like, I think it's a combination of young people looking at the situation in the country and half of them somewhat not giving a fuck. I think it's a combination of those two things. It's not just as simple as you guys were just lazy, you didn't want to take part.
Well, I'm sticking to that until I come up with a better explanation.
Yeah.
Congo Chris suggests, and I think this is probably better than the idea that we were talking about, taking votes away. He says nobody should have their vote taken away. Taxpayers should get an extra vote because they have skin in the game. I
think that's an interesting...
I think income, because we all pay VAT, as someone also said in the comments, slippery pickle. We all pay VAT. But if you are paying income tax over and above the VAT you pay on goods, that's a legitimate reason why you should have an extra vote.
Yeah.
Like, because you have a lot more riding on, you're putting more into the system and hopefully you're expecting to get some out by investing in the country.
Yeah, I think it could be similar to the Electoral College. Like, taxpayers in the country become the Electoral College and everyone else is just a popular vote.
Now you're asking for trouble. Lisa says to wrap it up, and Lisa's proving my point. Thank you, Lisa. Let's just dance.
Yeah, let's do it.
I love it. Okay, so from the serious to the stupid this morning, I haven't watched it. I hear everybody talking about Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk. Elon Musk, you see, I'm on Twitter, so I see a lot of what's going on in his head anyway. I don't know how many more interviews with him we have to see. I know that it's great for... listen, if he offered to do an interview on this show, of course I'd say yes. I think Jordan Peterson's a very smart guy. I'm sure he asked one or two good questions. I just feel like I've heard a lot from these two guys already. I'm not so sure how much more I can expect to get out of them on current affairs. I mean, Elon's on Twitter all the time. So if I want to know what Elon thinks, all I have to do is scroll through the last 5 hours of tweets.
In fact, Jordan's also on Twitter all the time.
Right. So I don't know how much more I need, but the two of them got together, obviously talked a little bit about politics. You have watched it?
Yeah. Well, I watched most of it. For whatever reason, it popped up on YouTube and then it disappeared. Yeah, it's so weird. So weird. Because I mean, the notification popped up on my computer yesterday while I was still at work. And then later on in the evening when I tried to watch it, like it kind of disappeared. There was some dude, you know, these reactors that watch them watch something. Yeah. So I kind of had to watch it that way, which made it a little bit difficult to get through. But nonetheless, there were a few takeaways that I got from that interview. I actually wrote them down. So
Jack made notes, everybody.
Yes, I did.
You're in for he's done his homework. You're in for a big day today.
Yeah. So firstly, part of the conversation, believe it or not, was about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right?
Oh, great book.
And
great book.
Elon Musk actually points out something that I didn't think about at all.
42?
Besides 42. Like, that book is philosophy disguised as humor. Right?
Yeah.
I always thought of it as this... I took it at face value, like it's just literally a hitchhiker's guide through the galaxy.
It's just fun.
Just a bunch of fun. But when you flip it and you look at it from a philosophical standpoint, there's quite a lot to learn in there. There's quite a bit.
I agree. Good stuff.
That was a fantastic takeaway that I picked up on that conversation. They also had the discussion about AI and what Elon is trying to do with his AI, which is Grok on X.
I've used Grok. It's definitely a little more funny.
Yes.
Less serious than and I listen, I'm always in favor of the funny and the stupid before. And by stupid I mean silly. I don't mean like actually dumb. Silly, not taking itself so seriously. I'm always in favor of that more than the serious stuff. I mean, like, can you imagine when it comes to billionaires, how much more fun it would be to spend time with Elon than it would be to spend time with Bill Gates?
Oh, yeah.
Like, Bill Gates is so
my goodness,
fucking boring and so serious.
Yeah.
Elon would be way better. It's just not even a contest.
Listen, I'm not even going to waste my breath talking about Bill Gates.
So was he fun in the interview?
He was. I think what struck me was just how detailed Jordan Peterson is when it comes to asking questions. It's like, it almost felt as if for moments in time, Elon didn't know what he was supposed to answer exactly, because he piles in all of this information and then leaves the question right at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can be a little bit difficult to keep up with the conversation, because you're like, okay, wait, you started off saying I want to talk about AI, but your question kind of meanders through murky waters. Like, what are we doing here? You know
I think you almost become part of his flow of consciousness for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, oh, actually, this is an interview. It's not just Jordan monologuing.
It's not just them.
Yeah, maybe that's also why I haven't been in a hurry to watch this. I think it'll be interesting, and I probably will in some time.
Yeah,
but it wasn't something that I was hugely excited about. Anyway, it sounds good so far.
It really is a interesting conversation, especially if you're into how humanity can develop moving forward. There were a lot of eye-opening moments. Like, I mean, Elon's motivation to get into AI, at the root of it, he's trying to figure out the existential question. Like, why are we here? Why does the world look the way it does? And all of those genuine, like, bedrock questions are the reason he's trying to get there. And he thinks by putting together an AI system that ultimately becomes smarter than all human beings might just be our closest attempt at getting to understand those questions.
I was in 2 meetings yesterday with some people about AI, 2 different meetings about AI. And afterwards, I went on to ChatGPT just because it's on my phone.
Yeah.
And I asked it now this is a fairly wide summary, right? So I said, what are the greatest human achievements of the 20th century? Now, if you asked a person that, they would give you an opinion there's so many things to choose from, right? Space flight, cars, the internet, human rights. There are lots of things that developed properly to fruition or came about out of nowhere in the 20th century. It would be very difficult to choose.
Sure.
This is where AI is useful, is if you ask it a question like, what are the greatest human achievements of the 20th century? Then you're going to get really good answers from AI because it's going to scour the entire body of human knowledge and come up with a very good answer, which it did. A much better answer than I could have given or than the smartest guy in the world could have given.
Yeah.
So that's where it's really helpful. And I don't think that we must dismiss the fact that this may be one of the big steps forward. I mean, there was the agricultural revolution, right? So that's where we all got to use animals to get things done. The second one was the industrial revolution. We got machines to do things. The third one was the information revolution, which is what we're in now. And we're at we're in the middle of it at the moment. The beginning of it was probably the 90s with the internet, all that kind of thing. Where information now, even if you're dirt poor in a backwater of the world, you can still access more information than any of your ancestors ever could, no matter how privileged or not they were. Right? And then the fourth kind of revolution that we're going into now is much more about intelligence. It's an intelligence revolution. So it's no longer a unique selling point for a human being to just be good at pattern seeking, which is how we measure intelligence, because that's not going to get anyone ahead when a machine can do it much better. So I'm fascinated by this. So he had a lot to say about that too. Maybe it's worth listening.
Yeah, it really is. And I think my favorite quotable from that conversation, I haven't heard this before, so that's why it stood out to me. Elon says, physics is the law and everything else is recommendation. I like how that sounds.
Oh, nice.
I like how that was put together because you get to, it's a cool way of pointing out to people that you and I can have our opinions. We can come up with different ideas, but facts are facts.
Yeah.
Let's deal with the facts.
Yeah. I heard someone the other day saying, well, I don't know about this Newton guy and the gravity thing. I'm not sure I agree with that. I'm like, go and climb to the top of a building.
Yeah.
And jump off and see if you can somehow thwart the law of gravity.
Yeah.
That'll be a really good experiment for everyone except you.
No, in fact, for everyone. Because you'll find exactly what you're looking for.
All right.
Well, at the bottom of that building.
Congo Chris brings up the fact that there's a zeitgeist at the moment tells men they are the origin of all evil in human history and a social engineering pipeline towards chemical castration, i.e. gender identity. Now, that came up in the interview.
Yes, it did.
You saw that part as well?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet, but here's the clip that I did see that everybody's been passing around. This is Jordan and Elon talking about his kid. So this is where it gets personal, right?
Yes, it does.
One of the reasons he bought Twitter, apparently, is because he felt he was tricked into allowing his child to gender transition. So for some people, this is hugely controversial. If it is, cool. For the rest of the population, it's like, yeah, obviously. And he's standing up for that, yeah, obviously group of people. So here we go.
Older boys, where I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier. This is before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion. I was told, oh, Xavier might commit suicide if he.
That was a lie right from the outset.
Incredibly evil, and I agree with you that people that have been promoting this should go to prison.
That's
so I was tricked into doing this, it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. Anyway, and so I lost my son essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
All right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and there's lots of people in that situation now.
Right.
It's not pretty, and lots of demolished kids.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a good reason to be the final straw. All right, so let's.
So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And we're making some progress.
Join the club.
Yeah.
Wow. I hadn't seen that until this morning either. So that's quite a big deal.
It is.
He vowed to destroy the woke mind virus there and then. Listen, if anyone can, it's going to be that guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's taking us to Mars.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he's got skin in the game tells you that it's not just something he didn't consider. This is something that he thought about top to bottom, and he's going out of his way to make sure that this woke mind virus, as he calls it, is a thing of the past.
Well, still fascinating stuff. I see
really
in the
is.
comments, why does Jordan Peterson speak like he's crying, Sanelli? Yeah. Well, I don't know, Sanelli. I don't know. It is funny. Having children is really crappy these days. Even Elon is struggling. Yeah, and he's got all that money.
Yeah,
It's tough.
It's
tough, man.
madness. It's and
Respect to all the parents. You guys don't get enough credit.
Like, kids are confused enough already. You know what I mean? Just trying to figure this life shit out, and now you add gender dysphoria and all of this shit on top of it. It's just insane. It's absolutely insane.
All right, I got something to tell you about here. Cocaine sharks.
Ooh.
Yeah. Marine biologists tested 13 Brazilian sharp-nosed sharks taken from the shores near Rio de Janeiro. They found they tested for high levels of cocaine in their muscles and livers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the concentrations are much as 100 times higher than previously reported for other aquatic creatures. The research carried out by the Oswaldo Cruz Foundation is the first to find the presence of cocaine in sharks. We really don't fucking need this. Listen, I watched that Cocaine Bear movie.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually. That was based on a real story, okay? Remember the basic premise here is this bear, some guy's flying over a nature reserve and needs to dump all the cocaine because he's going to be arrested on the other side. He throws it all out into this forest. The forest is in a nature reserve. In the nature reserve, there are bears. The one bear finds all the cocaine, goes to town. Okay. Becomes, for a couple of hours until it has a heart attack and dies, the most fearsome predator alive on the planet today, with absolutely unbelievable levels of concentration and focus.
Yes, sir.
And energy.
Yeah.
Okay? And this thing just causes shit wherever it goes. Now, we do not need a repeat of this with sharks.
No, we don't.
I don't know who thought this was a good idea. You Brazilians are insane. Stop this now.
Do you know what blew my mind about this story? It says the concentrations were as much as 100 times higher than previously reported for other aquatic creatures. Like, what's going on with these fish?
Well, apparently they believe that cocaine is making its way into the waters via illegal labs where the drug is manufactured or through the excrement of drug users.
Ooh.
Nice. All you drug addicts, as if it isn't bad enough having to deal with you on the streets of Rio de Janeiro.
Sheesh.
Further research is required to ascertain exactly whether the cocaine is changing the behavior of the sharks. However, previous research has shown that drugs were likely to have similar effects on animals as they do on humans.
Oh, my
You don't
goodness.
say.
A shark high on cocaine?
Yeah. Graham Rogers says, imagine cocaine mosquitoes.
Oh, my God.
I don't want to think about that.
No. And, like, I'm glad you brought up that cocaine bear. You remember that question that they asked women? Would you rather be in the wild with a man or a bear? Let me tell you something. Even if he's got no cocaine in him, it's
hell
a bad
yeah.
idea.
Congo Chris says, hell yeah. cocaine sharks, myth gators, and nyaope prawns. Rock and roll, brother. We will not be the apex species anymore.
Oh,
it
my
won't
goodness.
take long. If you let all these other animals have these drugs, especially this drug, we're in for a lot of trouble.
We are.
That's why turtles always have straws stuck in their noses, says our bots.
I actually read, I came across a very interesting story about a week or so ago. There were 4 shark attacks in the US in one day.
That's cocaine.
It's the cocaine. I was trying to figure out what was going on. I didn't know these motherfuckers were high on cocaine.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Lisa says, no way. That's like Jaws and Fast Forward. Yeah, listen, we really are. Yeah, people are worried about like climate change, but we should first worry about the cocaine sharks.
Yes.
I would prefer that to be our priority.
The
at the
cocaine
moment. Thank
animals.
you. Thank you. Let's concentrate on the really important stuff. I saw the U.S. Secret Service Director, Kim Cheadle, resigned.
Of course she did.
Did you see how they tore her to pieces in Congress? And rightly so.
She deserves it.
As your
She
director,
deserves
she
it.
says, I take full responsibility for the security lapse. She said in a resignation letter to staff on Tuesday, she had faced calls from Democrats and Republicans to step down after a contentious House committee hearing on Monday about the incident. Oh, they went at her, huh?
I mean, I loved it. I loved it. I saw a couple of clips from the entire thing and I was like, you know what? Sometimes when you're an idiot and you're just bad at your job,
Yeah.
we need to put you on Front Street.
Right,
So the whole world can watch you fumble and
you know,
stumble.
can I tell you what another important part of that is?
Yeah.
Is you actually need, and I know this is going to upset some people, especially the gentler, kinder people in our audience, of which there are probably about 3. But I know that people don't like to hear this, but humiliation and embarrassment are essential ingredients to getting people to improve their behavior and the results.
Can the church say amen?
You got to embarrass and humiliate bad motherfuckers. You have to let stupid and incompetent people know that they're stupid and incompetent.
Yep.
All of this gentle, like, don't bully people, say the nice things, don't let people feel bad about themselves. Bullshit. You need to remind people how shit they are when they've behaved like shit.
Yeah.
Really. We got to rub their noses in it. Like what you do with a dog. When it shits in your house, you rub your nose in the shit and then you hit the dog. That's what we got to do to people like Kim Cheadle and everyone else who takes up a job that they can't do, that they're not qualified for, that they fuck up badly.
Yep.
And we are all allowed a couple of mistakes. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying zero tolerance. I'm saying if you've proven time and time again, or in an incident where the stakes are so high that you cannot afford to make a mistake, humiliation and embarrassment are part of the prescribed solution. They are not to be avoided. And I know every HR director in the country has just shat themselves and started running around the room with their arms flailing above their heads, screaming, how could he say this? It's heresy, because they're employed, these HR people, to make sure that everything is soft and gentle and nice and friendly. And let me tell you, that doesn't always get results. Sometimes someone needs to be put in a position of humiliation, like the Secret Service director. If she hadn't gone in for that hearing, she'd still be sitting there. Like so many other people in politics all over the world, not just in this country of ours, all over the world, where they have thick skins, so they don't care what people think of them. But if you humiliate them enough, they'll make the right decision.
Yep. I think the magic moment, or the money moment for me, when they asked after Reagan's assassination attempt, what happened to the head of the Secret Service at that point? She was like, he kept on going. They were like, no, he resigned. And that's exactly what you need to do right now, which is what she did. And as you're explaining how sometimes we need to humiliate a few people.
Yeah.
In my mind, that scene from Game of Thrones where Cersei is being
shame.
We need to do it. We need to do it because people's social perception is a lot more important these days.
Yeah.
Because of social media and the internet and all of this stuff. I think you should be publicly humiliated, especially if you are in a service industry. Specifically government.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You must
because
just humiliate
because
you.
in government, like if you work for a private company, you really only owe an explanation to the other people in that company and
Correct.
maybe your clients, right? But if you're in government, you owe the whole country an explanation. That's the difference. So people mustn't go, oh, well, but then that goes for companies too. Yes, it does. But to the degree that the company and the clients are your only points of responsibility. If you're in government, you owe everyone in the country an explanation.
Please.
Jared says, it's an interesting one. The people have got to know if you're being stupid. Richard Nixon once. Well, he actually said people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. Well, and if you're a crook, they must out with that as well. My wife is in HR. Just called you an asshole, says Smiley Face. I'll tell your wife to get a real job. Stupid. Really. Honestly. Smiley Face says, Sonetta, your wife must suck having a job like that. I told you we've got a really friendly audience here. They take no prisoners. All right.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. So that's some fun. There was something else that I wanted to show you quickly. This is quite cool. Among all the clips that I sent to James this morning, is this one of Ricky Gervais from his show. And the reason I don't add 2 Rand for hope at KFC is because those are not my fucking children. Okay, I'm not.
I just don't believe the money is going where it needs to. Honestly, I was actually thinking about this the other day, right? Like when you think about all the non-profit organizations there are, like there's UNICEF,
we have
Nelson
more in
Mandela's
this. We have
Children's
more.
Fund.
We have more charity organizations in South Africa than they do in the UK.
I'm not surprised. Where's this money going? Someone must tell me where this money is going, because if we are asked to add, it's KFC with add 2 Rand to your order. McDonald's add 5 Rand to your order. It's like, where is this money going?
Okay, look, I'm sure that they're doing good with it. I'm sure that they're not pocketing the cash.
I'm not sure.
The difference is, like someone said this the other day, and I know this show sounds like it's the most insensitive show we've done in ages, but hey, this is bound to happen at some point. I know that there are good people in the world who are trying to do good, and I have no doubt that these organizations are doing the best they can. And we need all the help we can get because there are tons of people in need. Okay, so I'm not going to lie about the fact that there's an enormous gap between the amount of help that people are getting and the amount of help they actually need.
Yeah.
Especially vulnerable people, especially children. I don't think anyone is in that situation because it's their fault.
Sure.
Right? So let's be clear about that before we get back into the mean stuff. But someone said to me the other day, and it's a quote from, I wish I could remember. Yeah, you hate the rich, but do you have the courage to hate the poor? And that sounds like the meanest thing ever, but it's illustrated better than anywhere else by Ricky Gervais in this clip, because a lot of the people who are doing the good work are actually just doing it for the shine. And sometimes they're paid to do it. So they're not really just volunteers doing it for free. You'll remember this clip if you've seen his show, but just watch this and you'll see what we mean.
Experiment for homeless children?
Sorry, no.
Oh, don't care about children in poverty then?
Not at the moment. I've got bigger problems.
Do bigger problems exist than the desperate poverty of a child?
Sorry, I thought me saying I was busy was enough. What's the guilt tripping? And don't give me this altruism shit. You're not a volunteer. Everyone knows you're getting paid. You don't give a fuck about the charity or poverty-stricken kids. You want money. I'd effectively be paying your wages, you wiry little twat. 4 eyes.
Yeah, and what's really clever about that clip is he does give money then to that blind lady. I suppose it's a blind lady or something else, whatever she's doing at a table. Because there's always people in the town square asking for money.
Yeah.
And you might be doing a lot. But then that person who you refuse to help at that robot thinks, oh, you're a mean person who's selfish and doesn't care. Like, you can't be giving all the time.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to be very focused about who you help. Otherwise, it is going to be diluted. You can't help everybody. And for many people, charity starts at home, right?
Yes, it does.
So first look after your nearest and dearest, because that is your responsibility. First, clean up your own house and your own yard. And then you can start worrying about everyone else. I love these people they've got no way of helping anyone, even themselves, but they're telling you about how they're going to save the world. It's like, come on.
It's a little presumptuous.
Start at home.
We were talking about Jordan Peterson earlier on. One of the rules in his fantastic book is make sure that your house is in order before you try to organize the world.
Yeah,
it's a really simple idea. Like, did you do your bed? Let's start there. Before you assume that you can fix the world's problems, is your bedroom in order? Let's start there.
Absolutely.
And if you're continuously walking around trying to help everyone, you're going to be the one that's in need of assistance at the end of the day. So we have to keep things in perspective. But I'm still saying, I'm going back. With all of these organizations, Gareth, I suspect there's something going on, man. Like a couple of years ago, correct me if I'm wrong.
You sound like a conspiracy theorist.
Allegedly, because I don't want to get sued. Allegedly, it was found out that those 2 rands that were going to KFC were actually feeding prisoners.
We don't want to do that.
Allegedly. We already feed those people enough with our tax money.
How much did Wimpit, who's now the Minister of Correctional Services, how much did he say we're paying for every prisoner? It's like 300 rand a day or something.
Can you imagine?
Listen, how much is the government grant? 350.
It's 370 now.
370. Okay, so if you're a taxpayer, you're giving only 70 rand more to unemployed and needy people in this country who are on welfare than you are to the prisoners. I say take the 300 for the prisoners and add that to the ones for the needy.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I like,
our prisons are too full. It's just not on.
I like Pete's idea that, these guys need to work.
Pete.
Yeah. He's better than Uncle Posy.
Make them work.
Let them work.
Yes,
let them work. Because
agreed.
You
see, we've solved all the world's problems this morning.
Yes, we have. And we are continuously saying someone paid their debt to society. No, they took a 5-year vacation where they were recording videos behind bars and doing all of this madness.
They all have phones.
No.
Yeah.
Stop. Here's what I'm saying. You guys need to farm to
fix potholes.
Yeah, fix potholes. You must farm so that you grow your own food. That way it doesn't come out of the fiscus. You need to work. Like, I remember in old school American movies, you'd see them making things like number plates. And
Shawshank
simple.
Redemption.
Please.
Yeah. Number plates.
Do something. That way you can actually repay your debt to society instead of increasing your tab on society's bill. I'm just saying.
Yes. Okay. Well, we've solved enough problems for now. I think that's quite enough problem solving from Jack and I. We're exhausted now. We can't carry on.
We can't.
You find someone else to solve the rest of your problems for this morning, all right? And if you don't like anything we said, just listen to it in context from the beginning of the show, and you can't possibly have a problem with it unless you're an idiot. It is time for us to talk about something very, very important. There are probably many people who at this moment in winter are thinking, oh, man, it would be nice to just get away, to go somewhere beautiful like the Pilanesberg, take a little time just to chill out in some gorgeous, like 5-star lodge. Well, I'll tell you what, when it comes to giving you ideas for taking a break, you've come to the right place. Why? Because this morning, we're going to be talking to 2 gentlemen who are doing exactly that as their day job. They are Graham Edmund and James Robb. Graham is the CEO. James is the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer of AHA Hotels and Lodges. They have plenty of really, really awesome stuff in their division of TourVest. It's a sister company of TTS, who bring you the window seat every single second week. They recently launched 2 new lodges in the Kruger National Park, and we'll find out about those in just a moment. So, guys, thank you for coming. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Gareth. Thanks for having us.
Early, hey?
Very early.
Yeah.
These are 2 of those struggling parents you spoke about earlier.
Right, there we go.
Very little sleep last night, so thanks, Gareth.
You heard my shout out to parents, right? While I was punishing everyone else in the environment, at least I said nice things about parents. Okay, so first of all, tell us about AHA, because you guys are a massive division of TourVest. You got a lot of properties that you're in charge of and that you run and that you make as lovely as possible for the rest of us to come and enjoy. So tell us how AHA started and where all of that's going.
Sure. So AHA is it's a collection of hotels, lodges, and resorts around South Africa. Currently have 15 different properties to choose from, spanning from hotels in Cape Town, where you probably have more tick than cocaine sharks, hotel in Umhlanga, a hotel in Knysna, and then we have game lodges all around the country. So
Beautiful.
Pilanesberg, Madikwe, currently have 3 lodges in the Kruger National Park, about to have a 4th, and another private game reserve just west of Hoedspruit, and then a beautiful alpine resort sitting in the middle of the Drakensberg. So selection of different options all around the country.
Tell me quickly, these 2 new lodges that they told me about in Kruger Park. Graham, what are they?
So the one is in Kuklu Tented Camp. It's between Skukuza and Lower Sabi. It's a luxury self-catering tented safari on the banks of the Sabi River.
Lovely.
Just 7 rooms. Yeah, and it's been really well received. It's probably the best self-catering accommodation you can get in Kruger.
And people like self-catering because
South Africans do, yes.
Yeah, because they want to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Part of it is not just getting your food served to you, it's actually making it yourself.
Correct.
People like that.
Yeah.
And now is the perfect time, obviously, but any time of the year is good in that part of the world. I mean, it's beautiful in summer. It's lovely in spring and autumn. And in winter, it's probably the only part of the country that you'd want to be in.
Yeah, and your game viewing at this time of year is absolutely fantastic. And,
sure.
For Kruger enthusiasts, especially for Nkuklu, it sits on quite a famous road called the H4-1, which is a predator-rich road. So you sit in between the 2 very well-known lodges of Skukuza and Lower Sabi, and you get that stretch of road for about half an hour by yourself in the morning before it gets too busy.
Wow.
Man, it's just absolutely beautiful.
So when people talk about a tented camp, I mean, this is not what anyone who hasn't been to these places thinks. It's not a bunch of pikeys with their tents that they put up themselves. These are like state-of-the-art, like the canvas walls that are effectively walls. They've got windows in them. It's got, it's got all the mod cons and all the luxuries that you would expect. And for people who haven't seen it, can you describe it for them?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. This is glamping at its best.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk into your room through your 2 double sliding doors with a big queen-size bed in front of you. It is self-catering, so it's got your stovetop sitting there with a beautiful fridge. We generally give you a bottle of wine on arrival if we like you.
Sure.
And just really beautifully set out, luxurious. In the mornings, you lie in your bed, you open those sliding doors, and you're looking out over the Sabi River. It's got a sunken, what would you call it, kind of patio in front of you with a gas braai on it.
Nice.
It's just an absolutely beautiful setting.
That's magic. Okay, so what have you got closer to Joburg for people who are still keen to get away, but they can't actually go further than like an hour or 2's drive? Have we got something 3 hours maybe at a push?
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a lot of options. So Drakensberg is always a fantastic option. So 3-hour drive from both Johannesburg and Durban. We love you, Durban people, too.
You mentioned this is the Alpine sort of resort that you were talking about.
Alpine Heath Resort. So again, self-catering chalets, 3 different rooms, sleeping up to 6 people. So perfect for your normal-sized families.
Nice.
And a real quick getaway. Then another 2 great options would be the Pilanesberg Game Reserve. So we have 2 5-star lodges in the Pilanesberg, Ivory Tree and Shepherd's Tree Game Reserves. You're literally looking at a 2-hour drive from Johannesburg. You tell your boss you've got a lunchtime meeting, leave the office at 12 o'clock. You're there by 2 o'clock, ready to jump on the afternoon game drive. And really 2 magnificent offerings in the Pilanesberg National Park, world-class spa facilities too, and morning and afternoon game drives followed by breakfast, lunch, dinner, high teas. It's a bit of a gluttonous luxury spoiled affair.
Fantastic. Okay, so I know what people are going to say. They're going to immediately start saying, but you know what? This is probably priced for the international market, and it's very expensive, and it's fine if you've got dollars, but we've only got rands. We don't have dollars. So do you have specials for South Africans?
We do, and we have always had this. So, I mean, I may get fired, but this is my boss next to me, so I've loaded an extra special for the Gareth Cliff listeners. It'll only be available today.
Right.
So if you do go to ivorytreegamelodge.com and go to the little book online and just choose dates this Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, still got a few rooms left, and you'll see I've done a little special promotion.
Nice.
It's called the Gareth Cliff promotion.
Very good.
Outside of that, though, we've always got special SA resident rates. So,
all right. So don't be a slacker. If this is what you needed and you've been sitting there in your office for the whole of this week and last week thinking, God, I could do with a break, I mean, this is a really awesome opportunity for you. So go to ivorytreegamelodge.com and go and look at those specials now before they sell out. Because I don't want you moaning in the comment section that, oh, I went, but it was already sold. Get in there quickly. All right. I'm sure both of you at these various lodges have had all kinds of incredible stories. And a lot of these have involved animals. So what's the scariest, or most exciting wildlife or safari story you've each got? Graham, you start.
Sure. It's probably not also good to say on this show, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So I started many years ago with Aha. We got Makalali, which is just west of Hoedspruit. It's private game reserve, Big Five. And I was doing a budget with the general manager of the property. We finished at about 1:30. So normal guest in the River Lodge. You got 3 river lodges, each with 6 rooms in a central area. We did the budgets in there. It was about 1:30. Had a couple of brandies. And normally you've got night security that walk you to your room, but I've been there 1,000 times. So I said, no problem.
I don't need this.
I'll walk to my room. It's dark. They have lights at that stage, probably every 80 to 100 meters on a gravel pathway. So I was walking along there about 1:30, had a couple of drinks, and probably 80 meters in front of me, coming into the lights, a big hippo on the path, facing me.
It's the only animal you really, well, there's a couple that you don't want to meet, but that's right up there.
And at night,
yes,
on foot, by yourself.
Are you between it and the river?
So that's the problem.
Oh.
Is that your rooms are on the right of the path and the river. So you always hear the stories that hippo will always run to the river.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I picked up a rock. I threw it to the left, so it would, I think it would assume it doesn't have great eyesight, particularly at night. So I threw a rock to the left-hand side, hoping that that noise would attract it. And then I ran for my life and dived onto my deck and just curled up in a ball, expecting this hippo to bite me. Anyway, went to bed. Nothing happened.
You made it.
Woke up in the morning. You can see my footprint sprayed to the right to run for my room, and his footprint sprayed to the left. So my rock trick worked. But it was petrifying.
Don't try this at home, kids.
Yeah, please don't.
Yes, sis. And you, James?
No, I've got nothing to really I mean, my only story really comes from the same lodge at Makalali. Went on my first ever night there. It was mid-November, and Graham had taken me up to show me the new lodge I'd be selling. It was a paltry 38.5 degrees in Hoedspruit, and
nice. Hot.
And anyway, a few more, let's call them safari sodas at dinner, and he snuck off. Didn't know where he had disappeared to, and eventually I got back to my room, early hours of the morning, and he had probably lit the world's biggest fire. And for about 22 minutes, I tried to sleep in the sauna, lying on the bathroom floor, shielding the fire. Eventually had enough of it, so I went outside. And at that stage, I didn't realize it was an unfenced camp. So I just took my duvet and my pillow and slept on, it's like a little something called a sala, which is a raised platform outside. And about 2 hours later, I had night security furiously waking me. So you got to get up, you got to get up. Yes, no, what's wrong? And those 3 lions over there are enjoying your sleeping. So,
my God.
Anyway, let's hope no one from work's listening to this.
Okay, don't take any chances if you are one of the people booking for this weekend or any other weekend. So very exciting, the new Skukuza Safari Lodge and Kuklu Tented Camp. And there are plenty of other options too. Just go to travel.co.za. You'll find a whole lot of them. Looks absolutely magic. Guys, thank you so much.
And for those people's Skukuza, I mean, it's predominantly the affordable accommodation in Kruger is self-catering, as either Sandparks accommodation or the likes of in Kuklu. If those people still want to visit Kruger, but they can't afford those ultra-luxury 5-star products that are there, Skukuza is a really, really good option. It's 128 rooms, great conference facilities.
Amazing.
It's really, really nice and fully catered. So you can do bed and breakfast, dinner, bed and breakfast. There are game drives on offer also. So it's a good option for those who don't want to self-cater.
Yeah, or spend an absolute fortune, because it can get expensive.
Yep.
All right, I love it. Thank you, Graham. Thank you very much, James. Good to have you both here. Graham, CEO, and James, Chief Sales Marketing Officer of Aha Hotels and Lodges. If you want to find out more, head on to travel.co.za. But you heard about that special on ivorytreegamelodge.com. Go on there immediately. James has made some specials available. I can't tell you how many will be there or how long, so get in before it's too late. We'll be back in just a moment. Gareth Cliff Show on The Real Network.
haven't driven a hybrid car where things have gone totally wrong and topsy-turvy. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say.
And your name?
Well, hybrids are generally a little bit heavier.
Yes.
So that can impact things like tires and so on. But I mean, I think they're eco-friendly. They have good resale value. Manufacturing is slightly eco-friendlier. That is debatable, of course.
Yes.
But the fact that they charge themselves through regenerative braking, I mean, the fuel savings, for example. And I mean, you don't have to spend big on a hybrid. I mean, look at the Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid. They're not expensive. If you're going for like a lightly used Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid, then it's an absolute win-win situation.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
I don't care about this is my competition, this is my pool. I am winning the That's Gold Clip Drift pool this year.
Yeah, you definitely are winning.
I'm
That's because you have a burner phone. Guys, if you see Ben's other random account there, please, it's a burner phone.
So guys, I'm winning. If you go to
Mfundo, I'm backing you, brother. We'll share it down the line.
I'm taking you down. I don't care.
Mfundo, we'll share it down the line.
I've got enough friends. Clip Drift, That's Gold.co.za, okay? Every time a BOC team gets announced, you go onto there and you get the team, okay? So there, click on Portugal versus SA, and then you spin. It's so super simple. And then I've already got tight forwards this whole time. So I'm going to spin right now.
Spinning.
Oh, that's good. I got Andre Estesen. Okay, so I've got a starting back this time round. Inside center. He's going to score 4 tries. He's so much bigger than the rest of them.
All right. It is Wednesday morning. We are live on the Gareth Cliff Show, the Real Network. This is a pretty busy Wednesday so far.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. Jack McClunt is here with me, and we are joined, and many people in the audience who have been watching and listening to us for years will be thrilled to see the reintroduction of a firm favorite, none other than Rich Mulholland. Dun, 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 dun. Look at the man. How are you, Rich?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much.
Good. It's nice to see you.
Oh, it's nice to be here.
You don't live here in this country anymore.
I know, but I missed you, so I thought I'd come back for a visit.
No, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
Listen, we love to see you. So it's never. You only have to ask once. In fact, Rich dropped me a message. I think it was 2 weeks ago. He's like, "I'm going to be in the country. If you got a gap, maybe I can wake up really early and come in." I was like, "Fuck yeah!"
Yeah, of course. Like a few minutes later, I get a message. "Hey, Story.
Yeah, we want you on the show.
Like, cool,
get in here. Is this all right?" So, first of all, welcome to the new studio.
It's absolutely incredible. Wow.
Yeah, it's nice to see you here in this environment. It's also it's been a busy morning so far. We've got a lot going on. I'm thrilled that we can pretty much shoot the shit and talk nonsense for the next hour. But you're in the Isle of Man, and both Jack and I were saying we only know one thing about the Isle of Man, is that is in their coat of arms and their flag.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 3 legs joined at the hip, which is the weirdest symbol ever.
It's
like something from Game of Thrones.
So weird.
Well, the whole story is that it is like something from Game of Thrones. So the idea was that they were attacked so much, called the 3 legs of man.
Yeah.
And they were such a stronghold. It was one of those power play moves, that you want to hold that area between the Vikings and the Scottish and the English. And so the idea was, and then there's lots of infighting and attacks, kind of little civil wars. Then the idea was no matter how they fall, they will always land on their feet.
That's where it's from. I thought it was because they cut off 3 different legs from 3 different people. They made like a grisly monument. So geographically, the Isle of Man is what in the sea, the Irish Sea.
It's in the Irish Sea, just off the coast of between kind of Liverpool and Dublin.
Okay, so you really get like some terrible influences there.
From sure.
There's some Scottish, some Irish, some
it's kind of
Welsh.
It's a weird place in that it. In many ways, it feels to me, my parents described it when they first visited as a really good blend of Scottish and Irish, except that it sounds English, right? But I've got to say it's amazing. The funniest thing is, though, is how South African it is. 10% of the island is South African.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, so, I mean,
now,
this is a weird
data
point
that
to
is
bring
bizarre. Okay, no, tell me more.
From a racial point of view. It's the only way that the mathematics, the weird mathematics works. But if you think about it, per capita, you have a higher percentage chance of bumping into a South African on the Isle of Man than you do of bumping into a white person in South Africa.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So do you have people going, "Oh, Rich, how's it, but?"
I cannot tell you. Everywhere you go, I've actually stopped because the first time, of course, is the South African national flag, Kiwi,
yes.
right? So
yes,
thank you. So that's the first thing you see, and I always say that the shortest measured moment of time is between the time when a South African traveling sees the word Kiwi and says, "How's it?"
Oh wow! Okay.
Right? And so the first kind of weekend, I was going on, "Hey, how's it, man? How you, bro?" Like you become peak, "How's it, man?"
And now you're sick of it.
Yeah,
now it's like
no, you just stop because it's like everybody's South African.
Okay, but what I mean, the only other reference I have for the Isle of Man is from the Fast Show where they had these 2 really inbred people sitting on a beach and
in front of the caravan.
Yeah, in front of the caravan with like chimneys in the background, some industrial plant, and the man goes, "We're from the Isle of Man," and the sister goes, "Isle of Man." He goes, "My sister and I have lived here all our lives." She goes, "All our lives. We don't want to live anywhere else." "No, it's because of the deviants." "Yes, the deviants." "Yes, the deviants." And then they cut. I was like, shit, that can't be a good place if that's all they.
That is a terrible.
Is it are there a lot of inbred people?
No, there are not. Okay, this is a very small place.
I sent that to your wife.
She sent it to me,
Yeah.
and you did that remarkably well. Like that was absolutely fantastic. Look, it's a very small place, and it had a history, I'm sure,
of inbreeding.
Yeah,
sure.
but
Yeah.
I mean, the thing it's most famous for is the motorcycle race by far. Yeah, the Isle of Man TT.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, that's right.
That's the race where every year. In fact, this year nobody died in the race. That's the first
that's a
time in
good thing.
40 years that no one has died.
Jesus.
Were audience levels down?
Yeah, well, I actually cynically, I reckon that if nobody dies for the next few years, they're going to like add potholes or something.
Yeah, they'll have to make it more dangerous.
There is part of the charm, right? That's the risk that people could.
But what attracted you to the Isle of Man? Like of all places on the planet,
and of all people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, first of all, let's not pretend that I have a choice in my life.
Okay.
Oh, you mean it was your wife?
Well, my wife gets excited.
Hey, you want to go to the Isle of Man?
I don't even think either of us. I think what happened is my sister had gone to an event. So, the Isle of Man is actively recruiting South Africans. Like they send seminars every 3 months. I think they recognize that we have a very high quality refugee. And so you've got on one side a nation that is exporting educated people, and the other side a nation that recognizes they've got an aging population.
Yes.
And so they're like, hey, have you considered?
Okay. So actually they make it very exciting for people to move there. They try to make it look like there are huge opportunities. There probably are.
Well, there are
because they need young and not dying people.
Yeah. So what's happening is people leave at 18. And they go to the main. Well, she's like, I nearly got deported. You never say the mainland. If you call it the mainland, you get deported. There's the left island and the right island, right? You are the mainland because it's its own country. It's not Britain. And
do they have special tax benefits there?
Well, yeah. So that's if you wanted to move, that was one of the big things. If you did want to become, so here's the long and short of it is I had built a relatively decent amount of South African wealth. But if I knew that if I retired and my kids moved to a different country and I wanted to follow wherever my children are, I would need to have international wealth.
Yeah, because you'd be impoverished on the rand.
Right. So the house that we sold for cash here, got us a deposit on a bus stop. There. So I'm back in debt again.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
But so what happened was the tax benefits were such that it was the softest landing for me as a South African to land somewhere else to be able to actually start building up an economic life there.
And you are close to everything there. So, I mean, it's not as if you have to struggle to get to the UK or to Ireland or Scotland or
you're
even
a 45-minute flight from Ireland or like, say, Manchester, Liverpool.
Sure.
You're an hour and a half from London, and, you can also just take a ferry as well.
Okay, but you wouldn't want to paddle all the way.
No, she's like, and in fact, you're lucky if you get off the island, to be honest. They don't tell you this, but you are geographically close. But the wind gets a vote. And it's the 35 minutes is the average flight delay.
Right.
The aggregated flight delay is 35 minutes per flight.
So Congo Chris says it's nice of Rich to wear his barista uniform to the show this morning.
Yes, that is absolutely incredible. High quality Congo Chris, high quality. This was my fear of the green screen. Is I thought, well, I can't have my stupid haircut on this thing, so I thought I'm going with my bakeable.
No, it looks good.
You went Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, you do look like you're from Peaky Blinders. Now, listen. One of the things one of the things I really like about talking to you is that you have done and you continue to do so much traveling that you expose yourself to all kinds of interesting people and places. I remember it was because of you that I became fascinated with Iceland, which was otherwise not even a thing to me before. You told me it's like the best place. And I'm sure you've been to all kinds of other exciting places since we last spoke. But also the people you meet. I mean, you get to go to these conferences, talk to people, and these are some of the people at the cutting edge of coming up with all kinds of new and exciting shit in the world. So is there still all of that going on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say to a degree, fortunately, but unfortunately, in that, when you do move somewhere new, you kind of want to settle.
Sure.
Whereas I don't think I've been at home for 3 weeks in a row without having to get up and leave.
Yeah.
Like I've been away 3 weeks. I was home for 1 week. And before that, I was in Zimbabwe.
Right.
And so it's in the last 5 weeks, I think I've done, 4 weeks of travel.
Wow.
So and you do, but the upside of that is that you do get to meet interesting people. And I realized that the job of a human is to die with the understanding of your own philosophy. Like we want to get to a point of death where we figured out a philosophical construct that works just for you.
Right.
And you only inform that the more people that you meet with the more interesting points of view. And any nation that you spend enough time in, the thinking becomes, I don't want to say homogenous, it sounds insulting, but it starts having a cultural way of thinking.
Yeah.
And so by traveling, you expose yourself to many, many different mindsets, and it helps you inform, like it's helping me to create this philosophical blueprint.
Okay, so I'm curious about what that is, but I mean, it's not insulting to say that a country does kind of make people a little bit myopic, and if they don't travel, they don't go outside of their village, they're not going to learn. Part of what we're called to do in life is to go on a bit of an adventure, and you're certainly not afraid of that. I mean, you've been an adventurer from day one, pretty much. What do you miss? What do you miss about here?
Okay, no, absolutely nothing.
Really?
What?
Okay, hold on a second. Let me qualify that.
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely.
My
he answered that immediately.
It's absolutely that gets to me.
Yeah, it's absolutely 100% absolutely nothing. So, and I'm going to qualify this to you. So, there's a guy called Rob Otti, wonderful man. He used to run Norton Rose here, and he moved over, became the CEO of Norton Rose globally. And I had a call with him. He's a really great guy and a friend. And I said to him, "What do you miss about South Africa?" And he said the same thing. He said nothing. And then he said to me, "Hold on, let me qualify this with you. It's okay to look forward to things when you visit. It is absolutely, if you allow yourself to miss things, you will die."
Yeah.
Right. So we do not. That is a banned word in our house. We're allowed to miss people. We're not allowed to miss anything because that's the life we had, not the life So for example, bizarrely, one of the things that I look forward to when I visit is a 514 from Simply Asia. Like I'm like, yeah, man, I want to come and have a 514. Obviously, there's so much that are nice things to experience when you're in a place. But I see a lot of South Africans who move there who spend their life trying to recreate South Africa.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you, the Isle of Man is it really is a wonderful place. I feel like I've won the lottery because I went there with the mindset that somebody here has figured out how to love this place. My only job is to understand what they know. That's it.
Okay.
Right. And any moment that you have to break as many ties and not like if you miss all gold tomato sauce and if you can't get it there, learn to love Heinz.
Right.
That's it. And so I think missing things is a trap. And if you allow it to creep in, it will drive you mad.
That's actually, is that part of your philosophy now?
Well, it really is. So the main part of my philosophy that I figured out was this idea of in any situation, somebody's loved it. And your only game you're playing, if you arrive in anywhere new, anywhere with novelty, your only job is to figure out what the people who love it know. And once you get there, and then we made other rules, like we're not allowed to complain about, we've got a weather embargo for 2 years. So we're allowed to mention that the weather is, it's a shit day today, just bring an umbrella or a jacket. You're not allowed to complain about the weather because we moved to the fucking Isle of Man, a small rock in the middle of the Irish Sea.
Yeah.
What did you expect? Remember that 40 Towers? Hanging Gardens of Babylon? So that's it. And so I unequivocally will not allow myself to explore this idea of missing something.
Okay.
Percy says it's blasphemy what you've just said. Blasphemy.
Yeah.
Why, Percy?
Tato said, remember, no braaiing on that stupid island of man. So look, people, it is funny though how quickly people can adapt as well. If you think about it, part of what stretches you and improves you as a human being is not just being in your comfort zone the whole time. That's what we're told. I mean,
growth is outside of your comfort zone. It's definitely not inside it.
It's an interesting move to make also at the age you decided to do it, because most people go, well, if I'm 40, 45 in the country I was born in, I'm pretty much better stay there.
Yeah, so I'm 49 and turned 50 in October, and the part of the move is at some point you stop, you realize that I think in your 30s and 40s, you're living in your own movie. Okay, so it's your film, your movie.
You're the main character.
You're the main character. Yeah. When your kids reach adult stage, you recognize that for part of it, and I think I'm still the main character in my film, but I think I'm starting to move over to being a supporting actor in my kids' film.
Right.
And so I recognize that my life, my job now is to allow them to explore what it is they want from their life. And if that equates to them wanting to be international, and again, I'm not even saying they won't want to come back here. I just want to be economically ready so that I can choose to live anywhere in the world.
Right.
And it's easier to live economically downstream than economically upstream.
Absolutely. And having options is the most important thing. It's the whole reason that people make money. It's not so they can have a bank balance, so they can have choices.
Yeah.
Right? Max Sony says we could listen to you for hours, Rich. The people love hearing from you. So what kinds of day-to-day things have made it weird and have you had to get the most used to?
Yeah, so nobody's in a rush for anything. Okay, there's a phrase on the island called "twa de l'heure." It means time enough, and it basically means if you're calling a plumber, my sister bought a house there.
Okay,
and one of the reasons she bought the house in this development she's in is that it has a 10-year maintenance plan. What this means is if anything goes wrong in the house, like a motor plan, you phone the developer, and the developer will send their plumber or their carpenter to the house. And the reason
for 10 years.
For 10 years.
I mean, in this country, you'd be lucky to have the developer even call you back after the day you bought the place, right?
Yeah, but you also, again, you pay for these things.
Sure.
And so people sell their houses the same way you sell a car with motor plan left. People sell their houses with whatever you call it, construction plan or whatever it's called, right? Maintenance plan on it. And the reason is that if you wanted to otherwise hire a plumber, it's really, really difficult. The plumber would be like, well, I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you think, geez, are you that busy? And he's like, well, no. But a plumber can make the amount of money they need to make in order to live a good life in 4 hours a day. And the idea, and we can say it's wrong, but I'm now starting to move to the idea that this is not wrong. The idea that you would work for 5 hours when you've made everything you need in 4, and you wouldn't choose to go home and live and do your garden in the rest of the 4 hours of the day, for them is absolutely nonsensical.
Right.
It's like, well, I need to work 4 hours a day to support my entire life. Working 5 hours a day is good for you and not good for me. So no.
Well, it's that old joke, which, I mean, it's a story that's been told and retold a million times. This guy is a fisherman somewhere in South America, and he goes out in the morning and he catches fish, and then he goes home in the afternoon. He cooks the fish for his family and spends the afternoon having a sleep and talking to his kids and his wife. And a massive businessman from New York comes in and says, hey, listen, I mean, you catch some beautiful fish here, and thank you so much for that lovely meal. And why don't we scale up what you're doing? And we take some of the money from the fish that you've already caught, and we put in an investment of, you know, a couple of $1 million, and you can have 10 boats, and you can employ all the other people in surrounding villages, and they can go out and fill those boats with fish every single day. And you will make such a huge amount of money here, because this is the best fish I've ever had. And the guy goes, why would I want to do that? And he goes, well, so that you can make lots and lots of money. He goes, and why would I want to do that? And the guy goes, well, because then you can eventually retire and live in a beautiful place and go out in the morning and catch the fish, and stops himself and realizes, like, oh, okay, this guy's already figured it out. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I've got a friend who's I joke with him, he's a subsistence advocate. He just does enough advocating as a legal professional to pay the bills for the house, the kid, the things that they like to have. He likes to play computer games, and he occasionally goes out for like some crazy rave party with his wife.
Yeah.
And that's all they do. So he's not looking to buy extra properties and have passive income and set up some massive operation where he can employ 200 people. He's actually already happy. So his job, in a couple of hours a day, just like what you've said now, pays for everything he needs. That's amazing. He doesn't have to kill himself.
No.
Work himself to the bone, build an empire. He's got a good life.
It's similar to what we were talking about last week when I played you those clips of those 80-year-olds.
Yeah.
It's I think as people have been conditioned to try accrue as much material stuff as possible, try get it all into our lives. So we've got gadgets and gadgets and all of these distractions. But from what you're saying, it sounds like the Isle of Man has figured out what everyone needs is enough. And enough means very different things to all of us. But
let me
it seems
ask
like
you,
they're comfortable with what they have.
Let me ask you this then. When you packed up and moved, you don't want to take containers and containers of shit. You must have sold a whole lot of stuff or given away a whole lot of stuff you didn't need anymore. How does that feel?
So both of that we did. And in fact, we took one container over. I took a motorbike. I took my board games because I'm quite obsessed, and some things are irreplaceable. Jazz took a lot of, she has a big collection of tea sets and Chinese.
I remember we spoke to her about them. Yeah.
And so we took those kind of things, all furniture and stuff like that we sold. I will tell you this, though, is that when our stuff arrived, we moved into a fully furnished place for a soft landing for 3 months. And then we moved into my sister's place while we just put an offer in a place. But when we first arrived, I was feeling a little bit disjointed. And I cannot tell you how wonderful it was getting your stuff. Some of your stuff like that could be like just looking around and seeing an ornament or like a rack of board games or things like that. Just made it to feel real. So while I do think some people turn around and say, we sold everything and we're going to land afresh and reinvent, that's maybe, I mean, I'm sure everyone's at a different place. They want to do a different thing. But for me, taking parts of who you are and what makes your home a home, that's not geographically bound. That's recognizing that you want to feel comfortable in the walls that you walk into at the end of a day's work. Yeah. And so we took things like that. There's other like weird, like, I mean, so the downside of this, by the way, the upside of this is that nobody's in a rush. Yeah. So I did a video on Instagram the other day. I was riding my bicycle to work because, I do that now. And I'm on a road
with that hat on.
Yeah, literally with this hat on. I've got a fat
newspapers.
Yeah, well, this is a baker boy. So this is not a newsboy, Gareth. This is a baker boy. I mean, to me, so it's like rolls, bread, pling, pling. You like it? So I'm riding on my bicycle.
Did you have a baguette under your
Yeah,
arm?
I had a
'Cause you could
baguette.
look very French.
Allô. Although I'd rather be like from Birmingham than France because nobody's scared of the French people.
Exactly.
Right? There's no Peaky Blinders movie.
Yeah.
All right, Alfred, you go, you take a punch in the nose. So there's a thing. So I'm on a road. Now, you know that one of the coolest things is, that's why you take your motorcycle there, is there's no national speed limit. So the second you're range, every like 500 meters outside of a town, or maybe even 200 meters, there's a line. And that line means national speed limit, of which there's none.
Excellent.
So as fast as your vehicle can go. It's an Autobahn.
Right.
You get these beautiful mountain roads. So I actually took my motorcycle around the mountain course. It was incredible. But it was so funny. I did it. And when I came back, I checked my high speed. And my highest speed I got to before I was like, no, I'm going to die, was less than their lap average speed going through tiny village roads.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, so you're on your bicycle. So I'm on my bicycle going up actually through the racetrack of the Southern 100, and there's no speed limit to this section. And I'm riding, and there's a row of cars behind me. And the reason there's a row of cars behind me is that no car will ever pass a bicycle or a pedestrian in the same lane in which they're in, because nobody wants you to feel like you're intimidated. So they will only cross completely into another lane when it's safe and overtake you. And if you're on a windy road and there's blind corners, nobody will honk, nobody will toot. In fact, I would always move over to the side and say, you can go, you can go. Nobody will pass you. It's your lane. We're not going to pass you. Just relax. And because they're not in a rush. And so the first week you get there, you're like, I saw a cyclist riding abreast. I was like, the fuck? Everywhere. Everywhere. Cyclists are assholes. And I know we're not like offending any cyclists because they're on their bicycle at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and then I realized somebody said to me, well, what's that? Because I was complaining. And then somebody said to me, no, but you go 3 abreast because you're not going to overtake them anyway. It makes no difference to you as a car.
That's interesting. Again, like we're in such a hurry here. Everybody's rushing, and for what?
Yeah. The only problem with, if I have my only complaint with Isle of Man is, well, I have 2. The one complaint is that because they're so polite, traffic circles are a mess. Guys, this is
you go.
You go. Yeah, same as like on an airplane.
Yeah.
No, don't let me go. You're the row ahead of me. Go.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing is that they've got this phrase, if you don't like the island, and I understand why this phrase exists, but and this is the second part of their philosophy. So part 1 is try to lure, time enough. And part 2 is there's a boat in the morning. And that is basically if you arrive and say, you know what I wish this island, you know what I don't like about this island is that you can't do that. And they say, that's okay. That's fine. I'm glad you don't like that. There's a boat in the morning. But the slight problem with this is that they think that the job is not to completely protect the status quo. The world can get better. We can fix certain things without changing the essence of the island. And so sometimes they're very, very quick to drop this. There's a boat in the morning gauntlet. And when I say, I love the island. I love it. I just don't want to pay and display parking. Like I'm not insulting the island by thinking I have to walk to a pay station, buy a ticket, put it back in my thing in the pouring rain.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a better way to do this.
There's got to be.
Yeah.
So, all right. Here's a comment that someone made here, which I think is quite interesting. Can you drink the tap water at restaurants on that side, says Mapelo?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Everyone is rushing in South Africa to be in time for African time, which is a good point. We should go and start a GoFundMe to buy Rich a scooter so he doesn't have to hold up traffic on his bicycle. Must be tough on his barista wages.
Chef's kiss. You do not disappoint.
All right, so where do you want to go next? Because you've always got like a couple of goals and ambitions in the offing. And I'm sure because you're now located so centrally, it's easy for you to get anywhere. Like what's on the agenda?
So there's 2 things. Establish. So the job number 1, I think, is to book even subsistence farming level of speaking work in the UK.
Okay.
The bottom line is, from an economic point of view, as a speaker, the UK actually bills relatively close to, not quite, but let's say 50% higher than I would get in South Africa. I would get paid in the UK, as opposed to 3 full times more I would get paid in the US. But the idea is that if I can build that up there, then if I do need to, right now, I'm back and forth every 2-3 weeks to do speaking gigs, to do work, to meet my team. But it would be quite nice if I could establish in the UK and just get the
Sure, of course,
paid there. The second thing is that we drive our business through stage marketing. So I get onto stage, I do a talk, and then somebody invariably wants to do business from there. So that's the other reason to establish. And then we've just launched a new business called Too Many Robots, and evangelizing that is important.
What's too many robots?
Too many robots.
There are too many robots. Shit, hold on a second. As a barista, this coffee is
too much coffee. Yeah. For sure. Marpello, by the way, says, I wish South Africans were that patient. Here in Durban, ladies are less patient to cyclists compared to guys. In fact, ladies are aggressive. I'm sorry that you've got these problems in Durban, but
So I just want to say as well that none of this, there's no zero-sum game here, right? And this is the other thing I've realized. The first thing you do when you go and you live somewhere else and people ask you, are you liking it? I always say, I love it. But then you feel bad because you want to say, but I love South Africa. It's not an insult.
No, you don't. No.
But you actually shouldn't have to. It's not. You can simultaneously love where you live.
Yeah, of course.
And for completely different reasons, love South Africa.
Yeah.
And so while I turn around and tell you this try-to-lure thing is wonderful and everyone being not in a rush is wonderful, I promise you, somebody who grew up in the Isle of Man and moved to South Africa with their mindset would turn around and say, it's amazing here. There's an energy and there's a vibe and there's something.
Correct.
So we should always do the best to love the again where we're at. So if you're living in South Africa wishing that you had a slower life, then move to Costa Rica. But otherwise, enjoy it for what it is. There's a hustle and a bustle, and there's something. There's an energy, and
so what's this new business?
Too many robots. So there are too many robots. So it started. I always think that entrepreneurs are like fix problems or fill gaps. Like we do shit that bothers us. So I'm pretty obsessed with AI. We
were talking about it earlier, and I'm happy to hear your point of view on all of this.
Right. So I think any argument that it's a bad thing is just irrelevant. It's not even worth considering because it's the thing, and the march of progress will not be stopped.
It's going to happen whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So the only idea is to turn around and say, well, how does it happen, and what is my place in the happening of it?
Right.
Okay. Am I a player or am I a pawn? And so I recognize that I want to be a player to some degree and I want to understand it. And, some businesses are going to be made better by it and others aren't. So what I did, like probably all of us, is I jumped onto the WhatsApp groups and I started getting the newsletters. And at first I would go through every single day and I'd check out every app and I'd do the thing. And there's all these nuanced little use cases that, you can do this specific thing here, or you can do that there, or you can build a database here. And so then what happened is I started getting intimidated. And the more intimidated I got, the more I defaulted to just, I'll use ChatGPT as well as I can, and that's where it ends.
Call it a day,
So I thought, this is problem number one. Problem number two was I started seeing there's a lot of people looking for AI experts, and I think, well, this is tricky because what quantifies an AI expert? Because anyone with experience today is kind of to a degree irrelevant in the space tomorrow. Is an AI expert somebody who programs and codes in AI?
Yeah, but also it's like when they told us there were social media experts and social media had only been a thing for like 5 years. You're not an expert. Plus, everyone who supposedly was an expert in social media has been shown up to be just trying, like everybody else, to make sense of it.
Right, but I think that's okay. So let's go back to COVID. One of my biggest realizations during COVID was, for the first time in my life, I run a presentation company. We help people to present. The problem is, first of all, the standard for presenting, acceptable standard, is so low that nobody really needs to learn it. And second of all, everyone thinks they're better than they are anyway. So in COVID, for the first time, our business was really busy, and we couldn't understand why until I realized that everybody recognizes that they're not good at presenting online.
Right.
And what we did is I also had no experience in presenting online. In fact, we ran a webinar on the 20th of March, 2020, 28th of March, 2020. And that was a masterclass on how to present online like a pro. And I think we had like 1,500 people came. This was my first time ever presenting online, ever.
Wow.
Right. So I was one step ahead, and I realized that what we need is not experts, is we need people like us who are just one step further. Experts are 20 steps further. You know who I can learn nothing from? If I want to become a runner, I can learn fuck all from an Olympic gold medal athlete.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
I can learn nothing from Elon Musk, right? Because he is the 99th percentile, or they're the 99th percentile. Most of us are just above or below average, making us the 49th to 51st percentile. What I need to learn is somebody on the 55th percentile.
Right.
And so we recognize that, well, hold on a second. Instead of looking for an AI expert, what if I can find an accountant that's using AI better? So they're an expert at accounting, but they've learned how to use AI better than you.
Okay.
And then find an expert in sales who's learned how to.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that we built this fractional model where we go to companies and then we will be their AI management for a day a week, and we'll level up their entire team by mapping them with other experts in different fields
Brilliant.
that have used it ever so slightly better.
It's this idea that you can get 1% better every day.
Yeah.
Over a year, then you'll have compounded that, and you'll be really good by the
it's
end of it.
incremental growth.
Absolutely.
The Gini coefficient
it's-
and expertise is too high, right?
Yeah, and this is attainable. This is not like pie in the sky. This is something everybody could do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I believe. And I believe that when I see people speak at most industry events, these experts, they're talking about futures and things like that. And I think that's wonderful. But actually, the expert that we need in our business is somebody who's an expert in what we do, the skill, accountant, salesperson, whatever, who has figured out how to use these tools better than we have. That will be the easiest step forward. And so too many robots. I'm quite proud of the idea. And this is just purely not a punt. It's a punt. but so it's called too many robots.wtf or tmr.wtf. And
somebody says, you sure it's not no more Nespresso machines?
Yeah,
carrying on with the barista theme.
Yeah, I'm absolutely will not. I'm not a Nespresso guy. I'm first of all, I really am a pour over man. So I'm very much a barista. Although I will say, so one thing I do not miss from South Africa, because I literally take it home with me, and people get very upset. So in the morning, Bluebird Coffee Roastery is my favorite coffee roastery. So I take my beans over and I make my pour over.
Okay.
At lunchtime, I take out my little tin of Recoffee and I scoop it in and I have my oat milk.
Yeah.
And people are like, how could you like Recoffee? It's not even coffee. I don't care. I like what I like. It's what I grew up with. And Recoffee is fucking incredible. So and you cannot get it there. And that is one thing I choose not to live without. So I mule Recoffee.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So there are some things he does miss after all. He just doesn't say he misses.
Well, I don't miss it because I have it. I engineer it. Yeah, so we built this whole idea, and it's TMR.WTF is the short code for the website, Too Many Robots, which means kind of tomorrow, what the fuck, which is kind of good. And then our CEO is Tamara Wentforth, TMR Wentforth. And so she is this AI overlord. And the idea is that she's hired us as silly humans.
Yes.
And we are her acolytes. And I'm like, I can't remember what my title is, but I'm something blah, 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 acolyte 4. And as acolytes is I am supposed to try and help as a stupid, meat popsicle.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to help the other meat popsicles figure out how to deal with our AI. And the branding is kind of like a Futurama 1950s, where we've got the robots we've got these robots capable of doing stuff, but they're doing the dishes and they're making baking goods.
Yeah.
And it's the idea that you've got these incredible things capable of doing amazing things,
but they're doing dumb stuff.
But we're making them do dumb shit like summarize your email. Nobody wants that.
Right.
Anyway.
Oh my God.
This is really cool.
Yeah, I think that there are huge applications for this. And obviously we're still figuring out our way. What I get annoyed by is that everybody is now talking about AI. I mean, like you mentioned the plumber earlier. The plumber doesn't need AI. He just needs to unclog your toilet. Not every business needs to be concerned about this. I think one way to future-proof yourself is to just do something that either no one else wants to do, no one else is doing, or that you could do better than anyone else. Those are the only 3 areas you can really make sure that you're future-proofed and you'll be useful to society.
Yeah, I totally buy that. I think that I think the plumber there will be things that will change plumbing, and the plumber will adopt them in his good time when it makes sense, or her good time. But
until we get the robot that actually comes in and unblocks the toilet, the plumber's okay. He's got a job, and he's very necessary.
You can't fix a toilet over the internet.
He's way more necessary than the lawyer, who will be overtaken by AI very, very quickly and much more cheaply. I mean,
and much more
these lawyers, by the way, any of the law people who are watching and listening to us this morning, I'm sorry, but you guys charging an absolute fortune for drafting a letter. I got someone closed an account for me the other day, and they charged me like 1,400 Rand for it. And I'm like, really? You closed the account for me, which was like an email you sent?
Yeah.
And now you're going to charge me 1,400 Rand. You are going to be replaced, lawyer fuckwit, by 1,400 Rands worth of AI. ASAP.
I felt that exact thing when I had experience with a lawyer who billed me by the hour. They were dealing with my assistant back and forward, and in the end we got a bill, and they said, fire off any questions you have, and then we got a bill per email. And so when I queried it, I said, but you should have told us you were charging us per email. She said, well, isn't that obvious? It's absolutely not obvious. And if you told us that, we'd have written 20 things in one email and sent them to you. She said, well, that would have been more efficient. I said, well, actually, no. You should be emailing. That's ridiculous. You should be doing it per email thread or something.
Right.
But this is completely nonsensical.
No, they must go out of business.
Milk it now, because in a few years from now, you're going to be shitting yourself.
Right.
And that guy I said to you, Rob Otti, from, CEO of one of I think the 7th largest law firm
in the world,
quit to start this business called Aurelium because he believes that there is no future for big law firms.
Good.
So this dude, the CEO, has walked away. He's a career lawyer who's saying that, no, there's nothing here and I'm going to disrupt the space. And people are shitting themselves because you're trying to shore up and defend themselves.
Tato says, no, Gareth, you're making me question my law degree.
As case, man. It's something that you should question.
Well, I still think that the world, why I don't think you have to question your law degree is the one nice, there's a lot of good skills that law teaches you. So You've had Mark Oppenheimer on the show many times.
Of course, brilliant guy.
His intersection of philosophy and law has made him one of the smartest human beings in the world, and arguably one of the most needed. And so if you've got a law degree behind you and you're a smart thinker, again, that we will need good, smart thinkers to solve really, really cool things.
But don't you think also, Rich, I mean, the idea of university used to be that you would go there to become a more learned person, not that you would go there to get a degree, to get a job. It used to be that you would go because you were curious about the world. So you'd study a bunch of subjects that you were interested in, and you would emerge at the other side of that with knowledge and understanding and a process for figuring things out, which is always going to be valuable. The problem I have is that so many people are going to university now in order to get a piece of paper so that they can get a job. And I think that's very short-sighted. I don't know that is valuable. And, in this country especially, we've got to be honest about the fact that so many people sacrifice so much to get an education.
Yeah.
Because we've been told it's the way to emancipate yourself from your current problems. Sometimes university and qualifications are just a means to an end. And that end doesn't have to be a job. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And sometimes jobs change, and sometimes things come along that will change those jobs. And if you can't think outside of the box, and universities only prepared you for a tiny sliver of very specialist stuff, and that changes hugely, you're in big trouble.
So I think there's a difference. I mean, so first of all, I think my biggest problem with university at the moment is that, because I think it's necessary, I think it's important that when you finish matric, I think the most important thing that you do is something really, really hard. Right? Because up to now, there's not been a really, really hard thing. In the UK, the A levels are supposed to be harder than university, so I think slightly different there. But and technically, I guess you would finish school at GCSE level and then do an apprenticeship, which is hard, or do your A levels, which is hard. But I think it's important to do that. My problem is that what I cannot understand is how the requirement for certification, because all that we have now is we have this, to make the job of HR professionals easier, we're certifying people for longer. So in order to make it, like, I used to be able to choose that if you had a degree, you'd be a good candidate for a business, so that would be fantastic. But now everyone's got a degree, therefore I need you to have a master's degree, or, you need to have a double degree or something. Right. So what's happening is people are studying longer. Now, I cannot understand how the relevance of information has shortened. The requirement of knowing things is being shorter. Like, I do not have to store information in the same way. And yet the amount of time we spend studying has become longer.
Right.
What I believe we have to do. So the first thing is that I think that if you go to university, say in the UK, and you do a year at Oxford, all it's doing is it's showing people that you know how to think critically and
you know how to stick with something.
And stick with something. Yeah. That's the most important thing. So that's fantastic. Now, what I would like to see is a university that, and I understand, so they've got an industrial complex, like this university education industrial complex that is absolutely going to want to persist. And so they have turned around and said that we're going to make it easy for industry to hire people. The only way to disrupt universities is if industry stop requiring their degrees in order to move forward. But The way I think it would work better is that what we need to do. So let me explain to you. I'm going to ask you a scenario. We're going to play a game. Okay.
Cool.
The game is this: is that I'm a genie. You've rubbed a lamp. Here I appear. Poof. And I said, "You cool." I'm not like I'm a fashion genie. And the only thing is, I'm going to give you a credit card. It's going to appear there. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And you can spend as much money as you want on clothes for your entire life, right? And it's yours, and you never have to pay the money back.
Sure.
Okay. And that's it. And everything you need on this card. So it seems like a good deal.
Yeah.
But then I tell you that after 3 years or 4 years, this card is going to disappear. And at this point, you can have bought as much clothes as you want, but you're never allowed to ever again buy clothes for the rest of your life. Right? So if you were going through your barista phase, right?
Right.
That's it.
That's
like
it.
You're right.
Stuck in that forever. Forever.
Better move to Birmingham.
Right.
Okay, so now all of a sudden, when I ask audiences this, they agree with me. This isn't such a good deal because, and I said to them, why? And they said, well, fashions change. And I said, for sure. And I've got a slide that says, let alone you were the person born in the Crocs era, which has come back to bite me because, here we are. But
those things aren't going anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, they're coming back like a rash. And so people recognize that this is not a good deal with fashion. And I said to them, so why did you think that's okay with education? Why do you think it's okay that at 18 years old, you educate yourself for 4 years and then you act like, well, I've got a degree? So I think that we need to have a statute of limitations on a degree. First of all, I think it should become easier. So with the exception of you maybe being a doctor or, certain things, totally. But even then...
But even doctors have to keep improving and have to learn the new stuff.
Absolutely continuous improving. Just to how far I ask them to shorten the degree. But if you want to go to a trading floor, you want to go get a job at McKinsey, you need to do the hardest year of your life at university. Okay? And you go and study a year. And you don't pay the bank and you don't pay the university anything. And then for the rest of your life, you're doing 2 months per year back at university, and businesses learn to cycle. And the way the universities make their money is that they get a tithe, a percentage of your salary in perpetuity.
Right.
And if you want to get out of your tithe, you can choose to stop going to university, but then your relevance goes down.
Right.
So the idea is that we need to institute this concept of lifelong learning because the average age of retrenchment in South Africa is 40. And this is a problem because we're trading novelty knowledge for utility wisdom. And what we need to do is to recognize that both of those things can exist.
It's like a software update.
It is exactly a software update. Yeah. I love that. I'm stealing that as if it's my own. Okay.
Between the two of you, but it's so good to hear you kind of rationalize and make sense of things again. And I've missed these conversations with you because you do have a way of cutting to the chase on so many issues. And I like that Jack has contributed now to your lexicon because that's definitely going to be an ongoing topic of discussion in this country and everywhere else in the world. Michael John says, fuck all the qualifications. Hire people from the gym. Those people are hungry for extra work. That's all that matters.
So I do love the idea of hiring people, and this was Missing Link's unfair advantage, and we're doing it again with too many robots, is that hiring undesirables with a great attitude.
Yes.
But they're only good in frontier services.
Right.
Yeah, so because I recognize I was like a punk rock kid, right? So I was, and I met other kids at punk rock shows, and that was Missing Link, and that's how we started. And so you get these people with a fantastic attitude, that waiter who was just so brilliant, and you realize, oh, that person's gas tank, their give a shit tank is full. So I need them in my company. And people with a full give a shit tank, you can teach anything.
Sure.
But, I recognize that lawyers can't do that and banks can't do that, but in small entrepreneur-run businesses, you can.
The Gauteng Education Department has raised concern over a high number of incomplete applications for the 2025 academic year. It said that some parents applying for their children grades 1 through to 8 were not completing all 5 steps. This is to apply to get your kids into primary school, and they're fucking it up.
Yeah.
This is bad things happen because you deserve them sometimes. Right? Yeah. Really. As of Tuesday afternoon yesterday, the number of incomplete online applications stood at over 146,000. There are 146,000 kids who probably won't get into school because their parents are dumbasses. That is an embarrassment. The department said the incomplete applications would not be processed for placement. And why should they? It's important for parents to check the SMSs they receive from the online admission system, which notifies them of their application status, incomplete steps, and other important information regarding their application.
Do you know
said the spokesperson, Steve Mabona?
Do you know what's hilarious to me? When that COVID grant came out, you'd never hear that people were skipping steps in their application.
Oh, no.
You'd never hear such.
Money on the way. But your kids' education,
You know what I mean?
You know?
People's priorities blow my mind. Every time one of these stories come out, it makes me genuinely question what people are thinking about on a day-to-day. Like, I am such a results-orientated person. Like, I look at what comes out of what people do rather than what they say or whatever public proclamation or whatever. Yeah. You can miss me with all of that bullshit. I actually look at what people do.
Hey, do you think with Neuralink, you mentioned Elon earlier, and this is something Tato's asking, says, that's it, Elon, we need Neuralink. Do you think that'll automatically allow people to upgrade their software? Because so often the problem is that the education institutions take so long to add something new to the curriculum that actually in most education institutions, and I'm not going to rubbish everybody, I'm sure there are some of them that are very good at keeping up to date, and there's some people in those institutions who are awesome at making sure that they deliver the latest state-of-the-art stuff. I think a lot of people in this country and other parts of the world are using textbooks that were written in the 70s and they just haven't updated them at all. Right?
Yeah. And I don't think the only thing we can learn from is history, right? And there's absolutely no historical evidence that suggests that this technology will be distributed fairly.
No.
Right? So I think
but it is accessible to everyone. I mean, really, Rich, there used to be a very good argument in history, since you brought history up. There used to be a good argument that there was maybe a library in town and not everybody could afford a membership at the library, and then you could only lug so many books home and all of that kind of thing. The funny thing is that the kids who wanted to learn would find a way.
Yes.
These days, everything is on your phone. Everything is on your laptop. Everything is available, even to the people who have the least resources. You have access to so much info, something we spoke about just earlier this morning.
Yeah.
And yet there are people who just don't fill in the application form properly or couldn't be bothered to learn anything, and they'd rather watch porn and play solitaire and watch YouTube videos and doom scroll through Instagram all day. Then you only have yourself to blame. Ultimately, this has got to do with agency.
Everything's to do with agency, right? There's nothing else, and there is a decision. And this has been my argument for years: is that while I do understand that it is harder for some people in some situations, in every single village, in every single country on the planet, somebody has made something of their life. And again, remember what I said earlier about figure out what they did, figure out what they love, figure out what they did. Right. So I understand that it's harder and easier, but it's amazing when Americans talk about privilege, white privilege, and things like this. I think they sometimes forget North American privilege and the idea that if you were born in North America, even if you're Frank Gallagher from Shameless, you're still better off than a kid growing up in Africa. But people have figured stuff out. So the Neuralink thing I think is interesting. The first thing is I did a talk back in 2017, and I spoke about this idea that I went to war with the concept of the fourth industrial revolution. Right, my first problem, I only have 3 problems with it. Right, fourth industrial and revolution. My first problem, well, I mean the fourth, I went to school in the 1980s and 1990s, and I learned about the Industrial Revolution. But the second and third had ostensibly happened before that, but nobody ever mentioned them. It was only Schwab mentioned them in 2010. Everyone acted like retrofitted them, like a backronym, right? So the second thing was a backronym is. Do you know what a backronym is?
That's obviously an acronym backwards.
A backronym is when you have if I said to you, what's an RPG?
Rocket-propelled grenade.
Right, but what it actually is, which doesn't involve rockets at all. But in order to make the acronym work, when we translate it to another language, what we do is we apply English to it. So we say, well, it's called an RPG in Russian, therefore the rocket-propelled grenades, and so you use the acronym to work backwards. Anyway, so retrofit. So. First of all, the second thing is that it's a revolution, is that nothing's happening at revolutionary timing anymore. No. It's just a very, very fast evolution. Right. Nobody's waiting for anything. But the biggest thing for me is that the idea that this is an industrial change is so fundamentally short-sighted. People say to me, what happens if there's nothing left for us to do for work? Brilliant. right? Absolutely wonderful. Because if we live in a post-work society, we'll still want to solve meaningful problems.
Of course, people will find purpose.
So what we exist in fact, that is the thing. This pursuit of some form of, the meaning is what we're doing. We are game playing. This is my entire philosophy is built on the number of games that we can play, and always just trying to be in as many meaningful games as possible. And so what I think we're going to be facing is the second hominal revolution. The first hominal revolution was when human beings figured out language. So Jazz and I did a silent retreat, which if you know my wife, you'll understand why.
It must have been impossible for her. Jesus, how did she shut up for that long?
It was amazing. In fact, she was the only one. She woke up one morning and she was like, and we're in this big glass thing. By the way, I'm much better, if I can be inappropriate, this is a trigger warning, I'm much better at sex when she can't say dirty shit. Because I figured out, women, I'm onto you, right? If you've had enough, I reckon that fannies have a thrust limit. And there's a point at which they're done. And women have all figured this out, right? They understand that when they're reaching peak friction, all they do is say something filthy to you, like, "Oh yeah, fuck me, big boy," and then you're like, "She likes me."
Yep, and then you're done.
So we're on this silent retreat, and I'm like going, and I'm like, for fuck's sakes, and you can see the panic. Her eyes, if it was a movie of her eyes, would just be like, "I gotta say something here. I gotta tell him about his big meat
I'm
or
over
something."
my thrust limit.
I'm over my thrust limit. And
second hominid revolution.
Yes.
Hang on, let's just get back to. I love your sex stories, but you were on a train of thought here.
Okay, so what happened? So we're on the silent retreat, and we'd taken some microdoses, and we taken about 200 milligrams or 400 milligrams, I think, of mushrooms. And so we're walking in nature, and we're journaling a lot. So Jazz prepared all these journal prompts every day, and so we did a ton of journaling, and we're walking. And so I've never liked nature. Like, it's never been a thing that I enjoy. I always think it's like broken indoors,
Yeah.
And for the first time, I realized, okay, I get it now. And I reckon that we cannot exist as humans. So you know how we talk about supernatural? I think humans are supernatural. And the reason we became supernatural is that we learned communication. And I think the amount that we communicate with each other using voice removed us from nature. As soon as that's why Homo sapien won. Because the in that battle, the kind of the battle, the Cro-Magnon,
we could communicate.
The ones who learned to communicate, they evolved quicker, and that was the winning thing. And they then left the race. They left this area of nature, and so this was the first hominal revolution. And at this point, we were able to act next to nature. And the reason I realized this is when I was walking, we're being silent, and we were in this big estate, and every now and then you could hear people a distance away, and everything stops when you hear human voices. They don't stop when you hear humans. So the one time I'm sitting on this rock, and Jazz had dressed me up, and I'm in this like hippie pants, and I've got mala beads, and I'm sitting on a rock tripping nuts.
Oh my God, what's happened to you?
And I know. And this baboon, like a herd of baboons, and the lady had said to us, if the baboons come, just clap your hands, and they'll run away. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at this baboon, and it's looking at me, and then they're all sitting on the rock, and we're observing. And eventually they just like Jazz comes along, she's looking, she sees, and she kind of gives me one of these, "Is this okay?" And I'm like, eh. And the baboons left, and everything was fine. And I realized baboons are super loud, but they're only loud like twice a day for when there's utility value of loudness. Whereas we're loud
all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
And so I realized that it was the first time ever I understood what it felt like to be part of nature. And I don't think you can become nature without silence. Okay. So that was the first hominal revolution. So when we went to be post-human. I think the biggest mistake we're making as a species right now is thinking that it's our job to preserve, right? We don't have to be conservative around humanity. Maybe we have to be conservative around the pace of change. Incidentally, that's all I think. That the only difference I think between liberal and conservative is the speed at which you progress.
Yeah, right.
But what I think what we're about to face is the second hominal revolution, which is when we start removing, and our humanity is defined by the hive mind nature, in which we now have a new form of communication.
Right.
And we have a new ability. And I think the most interesting problem will be figuring out the limiter that we put on the ability for me to send ideas to your head. so that we understand what will still exist from the point of view of
Well,
conversation.
there will be a limit because people already are feeling like it's all too much. There's too much information. It's too much to keep up with everybody. You know, I mean, famously, we've got this Dunbar's number of the maximum number of meaningful communications we can have with a select group of people, where they're not just auxiliary people. You know, these are like your family, your very close friends, the people you work with. Maximum 120. No one can go higher than that. You may have 5,000 contacts on your phone, and you may send everyone a birthday message on their birthday, but that doesn't mean that you are communicating with them in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And so there are limits. There are upper limits on this. Humans think somehow that we're just going to suddenly keep up. This is why the machines will beat us in the long run, because we're still working with those primate brains that those baboons that you were talking about have.
Mm-hmm.
We do. We just beat us, and I think that we'll become them. So I just think that we will live in this kind of. I think there'll be a symbiotic relationship.
I just mean that they will have in a short while better processing power.
Yes.
Better abilities to make sense of things. Better abilities to create the outcomes that are desired than we will.
Yeah, I think that the biggest mistake that we're making is that we're treating, so the term artificial intelligence I cannot stand, because it's acting like we are intelligence, and anything that isn't our form of intelligence is artificial intelligence.
Right.
Whereas actually it's just it's a machine versus a silicon intelligence versus an organic intelligence.
Yeah.
Like a meat intelligence. Even within meat intelligences, there are bees. Which we know are hyper intelligent.
Yes.
And so I think
and octopuses.
And right. And I think what they're doing better, the real interesting thing isn't when it becomes smarter than us, is that they don't have to be smarter than you. You've got like little neurons in your brain that fire in order to do this, to extend a finger. And that's its only job. And it's not smart. It doesn't have a general intelligence. It only knows how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What we've done is we've figured out how to make all of them talk to each other. So actually, our brain is actually a hive mind of small, narrow intelligences.
Mm.
And I think the unfair advantage that AIs have over us is not that they are going to be smarter than us, is that they are already, it's connected versus disconnected intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to chat to you and Jack, I'm having to use words. It's a highly inefficient, low resolution form of delivery.
Wouldn't it be cool, or would it be terrifying? And I think we'll have a difference of opinion in this. If you could actually just have telepathy, people could just look at each other and communicate like a whole book full of shit with each other in that moment. Would it be scary as hell, or would it be extraordinarily efficient?
It would be interesting to find out. It's just I don't want to hear certain people's thoughts about things.
So I don't think we'll hear
It's
people's
terrifying to me.
thoughts any more than you'll hear, because I think we'll be able to control the communication.
Mm.
My worry is more around the ability to hack. So, but I think that we will always store elements of who we are. So the Neuralink chip will allow us to communicate what we can communicate there, but I don't think it will force me to tell you what I think about. You've got the fact that you still have the sticker on your hat. You know, I can still be honest about that.
Mm-hmm.
But we can chat about it after.
Yeah, we can. Sure.
No, but so I think what will happen is what it might mean though is if I'm reading, I just recently read Clavel's Shogun.
Oh yeah,
and you know there was like entire battle scenes and things that are really I had some feelings about them. And what I think is quite interesting is I can talk to you about the scene with the peasant with the execution.
Yes,
and I could describe it to you, but instead of trying to explain to you what they created, I could say it's kind of like to understand, and then you understand, and you're like, holy shit. And so the ability, so I think empathy is one of the worst things that we've been sold in our lives. Like the empathy is a terrible idea. If you walk around as an empath, like have sympathy and compassion, right? But empathy is a horrific thing. Feeling what other people feel has no utility value. Well, it has low utility value. Being able to sometimes, though, when somebody turns around to your friend and says, listen, I'm really struggling. Let's say Jazz is struggling with something. And she says, I'm really struggling with maybe something in her art. I'm struggling to feel motivated and things like that. Let me try to explain to you. And then she can
give you a packet of those things.
Yes.
So imagine being able to package the feeling or the thought or the idea that you understand already, and to be able to send that to me.
Yeah.
Like you send someone an attachment on an email. That would be pretty cool.
So Gareth, imagine you turn around and say to me, Rich, when you said to me X, I just want you to understand. I know what you were. I feel like I understand where you were coming from.
But this is how I experienced it.
This is how I've experienced it.
Yeah.
And I might sit there with that and think, well, holy shit.
I did it wrong. Or
Okay.
I'm not seeing the
now
whole
I get
picture.
it.
Or yeah.
And so that's it. And I can hold that package and then I can go. But we also have to be careful because if we can now, the risk of this is, imagine I wanted to do a emotional warfare, and I could actually tactically dial into people's brains and send empathy depression packets to an entire nation of people.
You're all fucked. Everything's going downhill. You're going to feel terrible for the rest of your life. Humanity's doomed, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of what the news media has been doing.
Right. Well, that is exactly what it's doing, right? It's empathy. It's emotional warfare. So I think the idea...
It's also what the climate change people are doing. Everything's going to go. We're all going to burn. Carbon dioxide.
Well, so I'm just going to figure shit out like we've always done.
We will figure it out. Exactly.
That's the one thing that, again, the one thing about history is it's showing us that no matter what's changed, we're remarkably resilient. And if we fail to figure it out, then well done, game over. That we'll be gone.
I was joking when I started off this hour by saying Jack and I have already solved all the world's problems, but I think you've just taken us into a new area of solving the world's problems, which I'm delighted about. Listen, it really is good to see you, dude.
Yeah,
and I'm happy you're in the country. And I'm happy you get to spend some time with us, and we get to share in your philosophy, your wisdom, your outlook on life. I love it.
This was mind-blowing.
Tell your wife we send lots of love to her too. Jack, always fantastic to see you. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
And here's something special for Rich just to end the show.
We're from the Isle of Man. Both my sister and I have lived there all our lives.
All our lives.
We wouldn't live anywhere else.
That's because of the deviants, you see.
Deviants. Yes.
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 Did you talk about the deviants, yeah?
Deviants. Yes.
Good. We're from the Isle of Man.
Yes.
All right.
Do you like liver?
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks for having me.
That's you and Jazz.
Yeah, that's my future. That's what we do. They're our spare animals.
All right,
We've
beautiful.
lived here all our lives.
And that's lovely. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Friday. And don't forget tomorrow, Burning Platform on the podcast party with Pumi Mashiko. And make sure you go and like and subscribe not only to this channel, but to that channel too. We will see you on Friday. Here, bright and early, 6 o'clock. Ciao.